Tacoma Public Schools acknowledges that we are on the traditional, ancestral, and historical lands of the Puyallup Tribe of Indians. We honor with gratitude the land itself and the Puyallup Tribe. This acknowledgement serves as a first step in honoring our tribal neighbors and partners who have inhabited this region since time immemorial and whom we give thanks for allowing us passage to their lands. We shall intentionally create inclusive and respectful partnerships that honor Indigenous cultures, histories, identities, and socio-political realities. We are here in the 12th floor of the Tacoma Municipal Building with Mayor Victoria Woodards. Thank you so much for being with us and taking the time to chat with us today.
Thanks for asking me to join you. I'm excited to be here.
Would you just explain to us and our students at home what it is that you do as mayor, and how is it similar to or different than, say, the governor or the president?
Well, I will tell you, so as mayor, in the form of government that we have, so we have a city management form of government. City manager form of government, which means I'm responsible for leading the policy work, and the city manager is responsible for leading the day-to-day operations of the city. So I help lead and set the policy and the budget for how the city will run, and we set the priorities for what the city will do. And then the city manager is the one who comes to work every day to make sure that all of those things get done. And she manages everybody who does all of that work. As it relates to kind of to the governor or to being president, the one thing about a mayor is that I'm right here in Tacoma. So I'm right here on the ground floor. We're really accessible as mayors, so I talk to people when I go to the grocery store, when I'm at the gas station, when I'm at the mall, right? So the one thing about a mayor is reachable and touchable. So I get to talk to people all the time and run into kids and families all the time. So that's a little, I'm a little bit more accessible. Like, you can't get to the president and the governor without trying to get through all the Secret Service. Me, I'm always by myself. You can just walk right up and talk to me. And I really encourage kids when they see me in public, come and say hi, because I love to talk to kids.
Okay. At Tacoma Public Schools, it's important for us to recognize that we are on the ancestral and historical lands of the Puyallup Tribe of Indians. How does the city of Tacoma and your office specifically work with the Puyallup Nation?
Well, one of the things I'm really proud of since I've been mayor is the relationship that we've built with the Puyallup Tribe. We've always had a good relationship with the tribe, I think, but I think now we have a really great relationship with the tribe. Since I've become mayor, we had our first, so there is, in the settlement agreement that happened several years ago, I think like 20 or 30 years ago, the settlement agreement that happened, one of the things that it calls for is consultation. So which means that the city council and the tribal council sit down in a meeting and consult about business or things that are happening in the city. We had our first government-to-government consultation meeting under my leadership.
Wow.
And so we formed a really great relationship with the tribe. The chairman and I talk often. We've had several government-to-government consultation meetings. Since then, we fly the Puyallup tribal flag in our chambers. We last year rebuilt what was then called the Puyallup Bridge. It's the bridge that connects Tacoma to Fife. We rebuilt part of that bridge and renamed it the Fishing Wharf Memorial Bridge. And that name was selected by the Puyallup tribe. And so we really try hard to make sure, number one, that we acknowledge that we are on their land. So at the beginning of every council meeting, we read a land acknowledgement to acknowledge that we are on the ancestral homes of the Puyallup tribe, and it is their land, and we are here because of them. And so we really try to make sure that not only are we strengthening the relationship, but we're educating the community so that the community better understands the ties between the city of Tacoma and the Puyallup tribe.
So here, when we were looking out the window, we saw the port of Tacoma. Why is the port of Tacoma significant to our city?
Well, when you think about it, so we're really blessed in Tacoma to have a port. And what's special about our port is it's a deep water port. And what that means is that, so in a lot of cases, as you start to come inland, right, the water gets more shallow. And so big ships can't always come in because the water's so shallow. So that's why they tend to always be out there. But we have what's called a deep water port, which is why those humongous ships that show up in Tacoma with goods on them, with containers, they can actually pull into our waterways because the water is deep enough for us to hold that size of a boat. So that's one thing we're really fortunate. A lot of people don't have deep water ports, and we do. The other thing I'll say about the port is that it's a vital place for trade and commerce, right? We ship a lot of goods, we ship a lot of things out, but we also receive a lot of goods in. One of our companies that's here on the port called Tote, they actually ship, I think it's like 90% of the goods between here and Alaska. So Alaska's food, a lot of their goods come from the city, come from our port to Seattle. We are in partnership with the Seattle port. We formed a partnership, and by forming that partnership, we are the 5th largest container portway in North America. So the fifth largest. The 5th largest. So we provide very good paying jobs. Not everybody will be a teacher or a mayor. Right. Some people like to work with their hands. You have engineers, so there are lots of good jobs at the port. There are really good union jobs at the port. When we think about longshoremen who load and unload goods and services on the port. So it's also the home for a lot of good paying jobs. And so I'm excited about our port because we are actually in the process right now of going through what we call the sub-area plan. And the sub-area plan is an opportunity for us. When you do a sub-area plan, you look at a certain piece of land or a certain community or neighborhood, and you spend some time really deciding with that community what they want the future of it to be. So right now we're going through kind of a visioning process to decide what do we want the port to be.
Sounds like one of the big issues that Tacoma used to face is a dirty port.
Yeah.
What are some other issues that are facing Tacoma today?
Well, there are a lot of issues, as we all very well know. If you look at the three of us sitting here, right, we're wearing masks right now because of COVID. And I think that as we move into the year ahead, I think one of the things that's going to be really important for us, as it has been for the last 2 years, is we're going to have to recover from COVID. And that means making sure that our small businesses recover, that our nonprofits recover, that our students recover, because even though they're in school, there still is a lot of recovery that has to happen. Because that our teachers and our families and our workers, that everybody comes out of COVID better than they did when they went into it. When you think about, because I think of COVID kind of like a storm. And as we think about places like New Orleans, right, when they have hurricanes, we go back to the really bad Hurricane Katrina that happened, right? And it decimated the city, right? It took out almost everything. So once a storm comes and you build back better and stronger, so that, because we know storms are going to come, so that when the next one comes, you'll weather that storm even better. So we weren't prepared for COVID. Who would have known that that we'd be sitting here 2 years later still wearing masks, right?
Right.
But we're going to be prepared for the next storm. Right. And we're going to build back even stronger and better. But because of COVID, it's exacerbated, it's made a lot of issues that we face in the community even harder. So we're already facing an affordability crisis, meaning that people who want to live in Tacoma couldn't afford to live here. COVID has even made that more difficult because now people are working from home and they can live wherever they want to. And people have found, like we all know, that Tacoma is the greatest city in the universe.
It's true.
It is, right? And the best place to live. So more people are moving here, which means it's getting more unaffordable. So it means that if you're the president and CEO of a company, you can afford to live in Tacoma. But unfortunately, it means that if you're a server in my favorite restaurant, you may not be able to live in Tacoma. Or even if you're a teacher, it's too expensive to live in Tacoma. Or if you're a firefighter or a police officer, right? So we've got to address the affordable housing issue. And then obviously a byproduct, something that happens because of not having enough affordable housing, and we can all see it as homelessness. And that's a huge issue in our community. So we've got to solve the issue of homelessness. And then one of the other things that we hear a lot about from people who live here is public safety.
Mm-hmm.
In this era of COVID, there's been an uptick in crime because there's just so much going on, and so we've got to address issues around public safety, and then really transforming Tacoma is the other issue that we are facing as a council. And when I say transform Tacoma, especially, like, what does that mean?
Yeah.
About a year and a half ago, the council passed resolutions and ordinances. That's how we govern. Those are the law. That's the way we pass the law. And we passed a resolution a year and a half ago that said we want Tacoma to be an anti-racist city. And what that means is we want Tacoma to be a city where everyone who lives here is respected and valued and has an opportunity. We call ourselves a city of destiny, but we want everyone to be able to fulfill their destiny. And while we know, what we do know is that opportunity doesn't come for everybody here. And so we want to make sure that we are removing those barriers to make sure that anybody who wants to can fulfill their destiny in Tacoma. And so we're working towards removing those barriers and becoming an anti-racist city so that we can make sure that our BIPOC community has an opportunity to be successful here in Tacoma.
So you're talking about all these big problems to solve. How will students use what they're learning about problem solving? How do you use problem solving in your everyday job?
My goodness. So it's first of all, problem solving for me, because normally when you're trying to solve a problem, it's because of another person or other people. So the first thing I say is relationships. Because no one solves a problem alone. Like, I'm very fortunate that while there's only one mayor, I have 8 council members. And so I never have to solve these. I don't have to sit up here in my mayor's office every day and shake my 8 ball and see am I going to solve this problem today? And it says, what does it say?
Don't do it.
Don't do it. See? Can you imagine if I relied on? I mean, I do rely on it sometimes, but no, seriously. But I have 8 council members I get to work with, and so when I'm trying to solve a problem, the first is you don't have to do it alone. I have people that I can talk to, some who have more expertise in certain areas than I have. So it's kind of like I equate our council kind of like to a football team or to any kind of sports team, right? I may be in the football team analogy. I may be the quarterback, so I may be calling the plays, but I can only call the plays. It's like a quarterback can't call the play, run the ball, kick the field goal, do the touch. You can't do all of that. You got to have a team. And so I have an amazing team. So when we're solving problems, I get a team to talk to. And so we work through solving that issue together. So as you think about the problem-solving skills that our kids are getting, first of all, sitting down, really analyzing the problem, right? Trying to figure out, like, I like to do all the pros and the cons. I have to think about everybody that problem affects and how it's not even just figuring out the problem. It's when you solve it, having different ways of solving it, because different ways of solving a problem affects those who will, it has impacts on those who will be affected by your decision. So, and then making sure you're talking to I don't just talk to my 8 council members. If I'm solving a problem about homelessness, we make sure we're talking to those who are homeless. Because you can't solve a problem for somebody if you don't understand what they need. And the biggest thing is not to assume that you know what everyone needs. So talking to the people who you're solving the problem for
and listening.
Listening is a very good problem-solving skill, because you don't know it all. So having people close to you that you can trust and listen to, and then making sure you're talking to those who you're trying to solve the problem for.
What made you want to be mayor?
I didn't grow up saying I was going to be mayor one day. Matter of fact, I didn't grow up saying I'd ever be an elected official. But what I will say is that it is, in my opinion, the best job I've ever had in my life. And I am really fortunate that every day I get to wake up and I get to ask myself one question. And that question is, what am I going to do today that's going to make Tacoma a better place for everyone who lives here? And that's how I start my day. I will say I had an opportunity to work at the Tacoma Urban League, which is a nonprofit that works closely with our community. And it was there I met Harold Moss. Where is he at? I'm going to reach back here. It's where I met this amazing man right here, who I call my father. But I met him when I was at the Urban League, and he convinced me to come work for him when he was a county council member. And for those who don't know Harold, he was the first African-American city council member, the first African-American mayor, and the first African-American county council member. And that's just what he did in his elected life. Wow. He was the first dentures, the first person to get a license to make dentures in the state of Washington. I mean, wow. He's a trailblazer, and unfortunately he passed away last year. But I met Harold Moss, and I just watched how he loved to make policy, and I thought, I never want to do that job. And then I got a taste of it, and it was like, I believe that we all get gifts and talents, right? And I believe that whatever gift you have, whether that's the gift of making things or the gift of numbers or the gift of teaching or the gift of filming, right? Whatever your gift is, I believe you have an obligation to use it to help others. And so when I saw what Harold was doing, and it was really fun to be a part of that, I still didn't quite think I wanted to be an elected official until one day I said, if I ever want to be an elected official, I probably want to be a parks commissioner because they get to plan fun, right? Yeah. They plan parks and zoos and spray grounds and Northwest Tech. And I was like, who doesn't want to be in charge of that? And a couple of days later, a position opened up on the park board after I said that. And so I ended up being appointed to the park board and then running. And I found that when I got on the park board that I really liked policy making and that I had a gift to do it and a gift to be in service that way. And so then I became a city council member. And then one day I decided to run for mayor. And so here I am. But I think it's just about, I always tell young people, the best thing you can do is find the thing that you love to do and find a way to get paid for it. Find a way to make a living doing it. And I love to serve. So this is like the greatest job I've ever had.
Well, thank you so much for your time with us today.
Thank you.
It was wonderful to hear. I didn't even realize how much goes into being the mayor. So I learned from you today. So thank you so much. And friends, I hope you've learned something today, and maybe you have an idea of something you might want to do in the city of Tacoma.
Well, can I give a shameless plug?
Yes, you may.
Okay, so let's be clear. So one of the things I don't believe is people say that children are our future. And I don't believe that. And you may have heard me say this before, but I believe that children are our present. And I believe we should engage them now because we are building a city. Like as mayor, we're thinking, as we think about planning for the future, that future is not about what I think our youth should have. That future should be about what you think they should have. So remember I said, when you're making those decisions, talking with those who your decisions affect. So I encourage young people, the mayor has a mayor's youth commission. And you can be of any age to join my youth commission. But I encourage folks to get involved. Write me a letter, send me an email, call my office. I want to hear from young people about what they want for their future. Because if we're going to make decisions that affect them, we should have their thoughts in our decision-making process.
So you've been invited.
Yes. Please come.
All right. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
And we look forward to talking to you again.
I'd love to do that. Thank you all for coming to my office today. It was an honor to have you.
Thank you.
Thank you.